Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Just Average People podcast. I am your host, Farhan Hussain, and your guest is, well, also Farhan Hussain. It is me, not somebody else with the same name. It is me. So, why am I on here? Partly need to get some more people, and partly was also I was thinking about doing another podcast. I was thinking about doing like a business one. I'm running a business. I'm creative, obviously growing it, creating it, and I thought I'll document that process. I'll talk about the ins and outs of it, and I feel like there's some stuff on YouTube out there. I feel like a lot of it by people who've never actually created a business, like business gurus, and some of it is great because it's from people, but it's from people that have already done it, and I think that can have a sort of a warped aspect to it because you've already done it. So certain things you ignore. So if I do it as I go along, plus again, I think those are great. And obviously, once I get to a certain level, let's say millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, whatever it is, whatever metric you want to use, I'll still create videos. I'll still want to document the process. Still want to talk about the ins and outs of that, and then how it is looking back. I think that would be a good perspective as well. But I was just thinking, just be good to document it and talk about it. And I find with business, it's made me a lot more grounded. It's made me, say, for the most part, more humble. It's made me appreciate life in certain ways more. I was pretty grounded as a person before anyway, but as a result of business, I've started to not care about what people think. I didn't really care about what people thought before, but now I'm like, screw it. I don't care at all. I'll do what I gotta do. And in reality, I'm not harming anyone when I make certain decisions, when I decide to do something, or when I decide not to do something, when I decide not to go out somewhere. If somebody's having some sort of get together and it's literally just some sort of casual get together that they do like every so often, I'm like, it doesn't interest me. It's not something I want to do. Whereas most people would feel socially obliged to have to do it, or they would go into that sort of you know mode of it's the thing I have to do. See, either they feel socially obliged, and or they feel like because let's say they've got a job, they've got their let's say mid 20s, mid 30s, or whatever, that they have to do certain things. They have to go out with their friends, and they have to drink. They have to do these things, and I'm like, no, like, I'll do certain things if I want to. And I think that's business has just grown that in me, just reinforced that. 'Cause like I said, I was pretty much of that sort of mindset before, but business has really just reinforced that inside of me. So yeah, I just want to discuss business, what's going on, my thoughts about stuff, and like the 2 or 3 things that have happened in the week or that have come in my mind and I want to talk about. That's what I want to discuss. Okay, so let's talk about what this week has been up I've been up to so far. I'm recording this on 29th of April, Thursday. This won't go on air this Saturday because I've got the podcast with Adi Raj, who was what was he, placement programs officer, and a friend of mine that I've known for was 2021, 12, 13 years now, almost 13 years. And that'll be going live this Saturday. This will be the Saturday after. The Saturday after that, I should have a podcast with my business partner because I'll be seeing him soon, and we'll have one with him as well. So that'll be an interesting discussion. A business partner, somebody who's been, big part of my life for 8 years, 8 plus years, coming up to 8 years. Coming up to 8 years. It'll be 8 years in. I think I met him when I moved to London. That was I want to say June in 2013. Because I remember I started my placement at Accenture on July. I think I want to say the 4th of July. Because I remember I finished. I think the 5th of July the year after, and I was thinking they're giving an extra day out to me. They're getting a year and one day. I should be finishing on the 3rd of July. But yeah, I can talk about Accenture and my experience there. Probably will at one point. The people there knew how I felt about it. I did not hide the fact to my managers, to employees. Like they knew. There was no hiding that fact. And a lot of other people know as well. I'm happy to discuss it. I'll say for what it is. Yeah, where will I go with this trend? So yeah, this will be next week. Podcast with my business. Oh, my nose is a bit stuffy. Podcast with my business partner will be the week after, and so yeah, let's discuss business. So it's Thursday, nearing the end of the week day, but we're only about halfway through the week. Whereas for most people, they see Thursday as almost the end of the week. I'm seeing it as about halfway. Saturday, Sunday, I still work. Some Saturday, Sundays I do more, some I do less. I'll admit, ever since I've got married, I especially weekends work is a little less. I'm more than happy with that. I really love my wife, and the time we spend together is fantastic. It really is nice. Whether it's we don't really go out anywhere, especially at the moment because everything's shut. So we can't go to restaurants, we can't go bowling or stuff like that. So for the most part, we can't really go anywhere. But if let's say we stay at home, watch a movie or TV show, or play a board game or play a video game, and we just play Mario. So it's like 3:08 now, 3:08 p.m. And about an hour or so ago, I was just about to jump into the shower, and like let's play a bit of Mario. She had a bit of quiet time from work as well, and we backed on Super Mario 3D World on the Switch and played a couple of levels. We're partway through that. We're about halfway through, World 6, and we'll be done with that from the 8 worlds in total. Probably be done in the next week or so. And then we're thinking about getting It Takes Two as well. And then with that, because it's a local co-op game, and the gods that there's a local co-op game and local split screen co-op game, and we are going to live stream that. So I mean, really looking forward to that. So like a husband and wife gameplay live stream from start to finish. Really want to do stuff like that with my wife, and like I'm really happy that she is into games and that sort of stuff. Like pretty much her interests are identical to mine. So like it's great that whereas I know friends who are in a relationship, whether they're married or whether they have a girlfriend, and they they're not really friends with their spouse. It's like when I say I'm best friends with my wife, and I mean it because we get on very well. We have similar interests. We love playing games. We love watching movies, TV shows, that sort of stuff. But on top of that, she gives me my space to, honestly, it's mainly just doing work. If I'm not spending time with her, that's pretty much for the most part what I am doing. And she gives me that space, and she has said obviously can't really do much at the moment with Corona, but she has said that she wants me to hang out with my friends and do that sort of stuff. I'm always trying to find an excuse to avoid those engagements, but she encouraged it. Obviously, with a balance. If I'm out all the time, she wouldn't like it. But likewise, if she was out all the time, I wouldn't like it either. So yeah, so it's been it's been good from that perspective. So I'm happy, looking forward to doing that live stream with her. It Takes Two, and then we'll thinking about like before we thought about let's do It Takes Two, we were thinking about doing like a retro gaming sort of live stream and gameplay live stream, and was going to do games either split screen co-op or some that weren't split screen, and we just hand each other the controller. Let's say if we get to a certain point after X amount of time, or if let's say one of us died, we would give the other person the controller, and we would just play. So one game that we was thinking of playing was Portal 2, because that's split screen co-op. We would play that together. But Portal 1 is not split screen co-op. So what I said was we could play that. It's not split screen co-op. It'll be good for her to, because I've played it several times, 1 and 2. Be good for her to get the story. And it's an amazing game anyway. And we just literally, you have a go, I have a go, you have a go, I have a go. She's played Portal 2 briefly, she said, with her sister, I think a few years ago, and she said she enjoyed it, but she hadn't completed it, so we could play all of that as well. Obviously, that would be co-op, and there's so many other games like classic games. And again, it doesn't have to be co-op game. It could literally just be controller back and forth. And like Call of Duty is another game I would love to play. I know some of them are split screen co-op, some of them are not, and for the single player that is. I would love to. Well, yeah. you know, it's also about showcasing the games that I grew up playing. Because, she played games that she grew up. There's certain games that overlap that we both played. But there are certain games that she played that I didn't play. Because certain games like Kingdom Hearts or Kingdom of Hearts, they were really got into that, but she was into it. I think some other games she was into. I played the Assassin's Creed games, but like definitely the way she talks about it, she's into it a lot more than I am. We've both been disappointed by Valhalla. Man, that was a bad game. I mean, like it was bad. It was so bad. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. What was the one before? It was Odyssey. That was set in Rome, and then they had Origin was set in Egypt. I mean, they were both alright. I think I preferred Odyssey over the Rome one. Wife wants to have a go at Assassin's Creed Unity, the one set in France. She never played that. I already had it on PS4, so we installed it on the PS4 Pro in the bedroom, and she's gonna play that sometime. Okay, so she'll check that out. But yeah, I was just talking about what we're being up to this week. Also, just being up to making videos. That's usually every week. Made videos on like a finance video. Want to do more of them. Being a bit slack with them. Hopefully, if I'm doing podcasts like this as well on my own and I'm talking about it, it'll keep me more accountable, and I'll feel like I've got to do more. I'm hoping so. That hoping that helps. So yeah, the finance video was on the difference between mortgage principal and mortgage interest, which was good stuff. I learned a new thing. And then what was the new thing that I learned? Why you pay more interest initially than principal? I initially thought, and though this is true, is to help de-risk the overall, you know, service provided by the bank to you because they get more interest. You get more of its interest, so they technically still own more of the property in terms of ownership. But then, also read about that it's because obviously you have an annual interest rate, whether that is, whether it's variable, whether it's fixed, that's on the remainder of the loan. And that's why the interest starts going down. I never thought about it from that perspective, so that was nice to learn as well. And that's another thing I'm going to have a little quick rant about is a lot of people do not have skills in finance. And people think, oh, I'm not a financial expert, I'm not a man, financial advisor. Why do I need experience in it? It's because, frankly, everyone deals with money when you buy stuff, when you sell stuff, when everything you have to at some point buy loads of stuff throughout your life. Whether it's expensive stuff, whether it's cheap stuff, whether it's stuff you need, whether it's stuff that you don't need, and it's just luxury items, whatever it is, you have to interact with money, you have to interact with financial instruments, and at some level, they will affect you. Whether it's people are like, "What do we need to know about stock market?" One, it's good to invest. It's a good way instead of letting some sort of pension scheme or 401k in America take care of you. You learn about stock market, you learn about property, you learn about bonds, treasuries, that sort of stuff, and actually become an active investor yourself. And people are like, oh, well, I don't have the time, but you have the time to moan when you're 65, 70, when you retire and you've got jack all money. You'll have time to moan to your kids. You'll have time to moan to your friends at the pub. You'll have time to moan to, anyone that listen basically that society has abandoned you, but you wasn't willing to do a bit of self-education yourself. I'm all for social programs. I'm all for society helping those that need help, helping everyone. But I'm also willing to look at it for what it is. So there's that as well. It's like I think we should all have some sort of. We think should all have some sort of backup plan or backup plans. Because one of the things I want to do is me and my wife are looking to get a house, and once we, eventually get a house, whenever that will be, and nothing yet, we haven't found anything, but whenever that is, afterwards, I want to start investing in property, and I want to start generating enough money that you would be able to cover my, just basic bare bone expenses, but I would technically wouldn't really have to work again. And that would be a great position to be in. So at the moment, I'm just saving my income. Most of my income gets saved. What I've been doing for the last few years is because really before that I wasn't really earning much because of growing the business. See, that's another thing I'll talk about. If I remember, I'll circle back to it in a second. Is I've been saving much money at a kind of 70, 89% saving rate. Like at one point, I think my saving rate was like 95, 97%. Like it was ridiculously high. And obviously, before living with my sister, now I'm just, in a rented house with my wife, so there's more expenses now and, whatnot. So my my savings rate is still north of 70%, I'd say. Still north of 70%. So it is still looking very, very good. And yeah, I'm just gonna start investing in property, do obviously some stock investing. I've already done some, stocks are doing well, some better than others, but overall they're all in profit, they're all doing good. Because obviously I bought these stocks before Corona. Majority of my stocks are tech stocks that I have. Again, I don't have a huge portfolio, just like a few thousand or so. But like it did well. It was doing alright before, but because of Corona, like I've got some like in Amazon, I've got some in Disney, for example. When I say Amazon, I got one in Amazon. Like so expensive, but because of all this, people was at home. They was watching more stuff. They was ordering more stuff. They was consuming more of this sort of digital online media content and service and products that they inevitably went up. Just bear with me. I'm looking at my Wii U, my media center, and the Wii U game controller screen thing is a bit wonky. I want to rearrange that. Bear with me. Well, I'm probably plugged in as well. Had a cleaner come round earlier. Overall, she does a good job at the cleaning. Sometimes she doesn't always put stuff back properly 100% away, but ultimately, you gotta remember, it's not, it's not some crazy, you know, salary we're paying her. It's pretty much minimum wage, so it is what it is. I'm going to actually just log on to my mobile banking and send her the payment as well. Now, I'm going to do that. So, scrolling down. Yeah. Okay, so it's like about £14 an hour. Part of it goes to an agency. She gets 9.25 of that, so she gets like 18.50 for today because it's 2 hours. I was literally thinking earlier on that I would love to get people like that on here as well. Just everyday people that doing just normal everyday jobs that you wouldn't get people on a podcast doing. Like it's always about getting people that are earning a lot of money on the podcast or very famous, very rich, that sort of stuff. Whereas, I'm like, what if we got people that like the whole idea of the Just Average People podcast is not about having like I remember a friend of mine said that it was Addy who was featured in last week's podcast that I'm not very average. I'm like, you're more average than most people, and you are pretty average in the way that if you walk down the street, nobody would bat an eyelid. They wouldn't think you're poor. They wouldn't think you're rich. They wouldn't. Obviously, some people, probably walk down. You might be like, "Oh, they're obviously rich," even though they're not. You might walk. Somebody might walk down. And you might think, "Oh, they're definitely poor," even though they may or may not be. But like, if you walk down the street, nobody's gonna, hassle you because you're famous. If let's say where I live, just some small town, if Brad Pitt walked down or Christian Bale, he would get hassled like crazy. Everyone knows them. So that's where I'm using the term average as like just people that you can walk down the street and you'll see people walk past them and they would just be doing stuff like you. Like I eventually want to get millionaires on this podcast as well. But not necessarily millionaires everyone else. Like if I get them on, that's great as well. They can talk about certain things, but it's really about millionaires that, let's say if there's a property investor and he's a millionaire, but you probably walk past people like that on a regular basis that are a millionaire worth a few mil, maybe even more than 10 mil, and you don't bat an eyelid. You don't think they're rich. You don't think they have money. You don't think, they've got some nice house or they're a millionaire because they probably just wear the same jeans as you or the same t-shirts as you, maybe even worse clothes than you, depending on, some rich people just don't care at all. And with that, like, those sort of people would like to get on it, like people you wouldn't know. That's what I, use as the term average people. So yeah, like I said, I was creating videos. I created that mortgage principal versus interest video, created videos on how to hack your PS3, any model, any firmware currently, unless Sony does probably a silent update, but I can't see them doing it. They ended support for the PSP, or they announced it, PSP, PS3 to PS3, on downloading games off their store, the web store, but they went back on that decision for the PS3 and PS Vita because there was a backlash around it, and only the PSP store is shutting down something like June, July, or something along those lines. And yeah, that's obviously going to happen at that time. But now PS3 is still around, so it's possible they might get an update. I think before, if they had shut it down on schedule, they probably would not have updated, but it could get updated. So yeah, PS3, fat, slim, super slim, all versions up to 4.87, which is the latest one, so all firmware versions. I'll show you how to hack in this video using PS3 Hen, which is a hybrid firmware, also known as a HFW, and you have to do, it's like a semi-tethered jailbreak. Every time you reboot the console, you just need to click a button called Enable Hen. That enables it, and then it works, and for the most part it's the same as the custom firmware. But I will be doing a video soon on installing PS3 custom firmware. That only supported on certain models. I want to say all fat models, some slim models. I've got a slim model that it is supported on, thank God, and I'm pretty sure no super slim models. I'll cover that all in the video. So I created that, created a couple of videos on Oculus Quest. One was how to, what was it? Oh yeah, because SideQuest is a fantastic little tool that allows you to install sideload applications, games, whatever it is, whether you're doing some sort of illegal stuff or whether you're just doing whatever, and you can use that to install games onto your Oculus Quest. They released that, the developers, for mobile, so you could download that on Android, which is what I did, and you can connect it to your phone and just wirelessly transfer games over. You could wirelessly transfer games over before using the SideQuest desktop app, which I also created a video for. That feature was pretty old now, but I just did it, and because I wanted to reference that in that video, and I was like, I might as well create a video for it anyway, and yeah, uploaded them as well. Got a bunch of other videos that I need to upload, and created some other videos as well. So I'll be having a look at what else I can create, what else I can upload. I want to create a video on doing Oculus Air Link. I'm interested in experiencing that for myself. I have not experienced it yet, so I'm interested in that as well. Another thing, this week I finished a book as well. Reading book. I always read 5 books at any given time, and I have an X amount of what I call page turns. So obviously, you got a page. A page turn has 2 pages. With it. So it doesn't matter if it's a long page or a short page, or whether I turn a page after reading it, and then on the next page it's just basically another page turn with just like a chapter title. I'll consider that page turn, and that'll consider me done for that day. I can read more if I want to, but that's it. So which book did I finish? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Debt the First 5,000. No. It was Buy Low, Rent High by Samuel Leeds, the property developer. I was checking that book out. I know he's come under some scrutiny about his courses and scams, but I think there was some knowledge in that book, and I'm taking it for what it is. I'm not going on one of these expensive courses. But before, because I had a little bit of the book left, and I was reading out like a temporary 6th book, but I had not been doing that for months, and I was like, when I finish my next book, I'll whack that there, because I'll be done in a couple of days, and it was. Then I grabbed another book called Humble Pie by, I'm trying to see, I think it's by Matt Parker. It's over on the other side of the room, and I'll be starting that today. So Humble Pie, the funny story behind me getting that book is I ordered a 30-second book, which covers like different topics, like 30-second math, 30-second astronomy 30 second, Einstein, for example. And I ordered, I can't remember which one, and they sent me humble pie. I was like, what? They sent me this? I was like, this is the wrong book. So I messaged him because he was on Amazon. I was like, I ordered 32nd, which they can obviously see by the order number, by the invoice on that and the product details. And I said, obviously I need that book. They sent it to me, and I said, this was a bit of a lie. That Humble Pie was a book that I had my eye on anyway. Any chance that I can keep it? And they're like, yeah. I mean, it's only a few quid to them anyway, so it's probably easier, especially if they're. I think they were a pretty big third-party seller, and they were like, yeah, just keep it. So it was on the shelf, and I was like, I'll get around to reading it. And here we go. I haven't started it. I'm gonna start it soon, like probably after this. And I was just looked at it. There's 314 pages. I think if you exclude like the blank pages, so but 314 pages, and so pi 3.14159, etc., etc. And the first page starts at 314, so you'll be 314, 313, 312, 311, 310, 309, etc., all the way counted down to 1. And I think maybe the last page was 0. Possibly. It is possible. So I'm looking forward to reading that. Apparently Matt Parker is a stand-up comedian that, he loves maths. I was reading about it that he always likes to use maths on his stand-up. I love maths. I'll check that out. I don't mind some stand-up as well. So yeah, this book replaced the Buy Low Rent High book by Samuel Leeds, and that book replaced. I'll grab it now and I'll read a passage from it for you. Replaced. I'm literally next to my bookshelf. Debt the First 5,000 Years. So this was a good book. This was over 500 pages, but to be honest, only about 400 of the pages are actual what you have to read. The rest of it's either notes or bibliography and index. Because there's a lot of research that's gone into this book. It's by David Graeber, however you pronounce it. And so this one's a little bit. This is literally the way the book ended. And so yeah, the funny thing, I was going to read about just a little thing, like half a page of that, the last little bit of this book is in the afterword. The funny thing about this incident is that the moment I read it, I realized it was basically the same joke that my graduate school advisor, the anthropologist Marshall Salins, used to tell. Though in his case, it's been transformed into a fanciful meeting between a missionary and a Samoan, whom he discovered lying on the beach. And he says, so the missionary says, look at you, you're just wasting your life away, lying around like that. Samoan, why? What do you think I should be doing? Missionary, well, there are plenty of coconuts all around here. Why not dry some copra and sell it? Samoan, and why would I want to do that? Missionary, you could make a lot of money, and with the money you make, you could get a dry machine and dry copra faster and make even more money. Samoan, okay, and why would I want to do that? Missionary, well, you'd be rich. You could buy land, plant more trees, expand operations, and at that point you wouldn't even have to do the physical work anymore. You could just hire a bunch of other people to do it for you. Samoan, well, why would I want to do that? Missionary, well, eventually with all that copra, land, machines, employees, and with all that money, you could retire a very rich man, and then you wouldn't have to do anything. You could just lie on the beach all day. So that was funny. Like the missionary goes to the Samoan who's lying on the beach chilling, and it's just like, why don't you do all this effort, or just to get back to where you are? I think that's a very interesting take on life in general. I'm not saying you don't work and you just literally just go sit on some beach, all day when it gets dark and you need food and drink and shelter and all that stuff. But it's the fact that more people will be in this sort of endless rat race, this little hamster wheel that they're constantly running around in, and all for what? They don't have any exit strategy. They don't want to talk about it like that. I've spoke about like exit strategy and what's the end plan to the average person that has average jobs. Say average job, I don't mean a low salary job. It could be a high salary job. Talk to people that have a 9 to 5, but that are doing, conventionally speaking, for a 9 to 5 very well financially. But they're debt. They literally spend more money than they make. And it's just about spend, going on holidays, getting a new house for no reason, getting a nicer car, etc., etc. I know family that do that, and it's just ridiculous. And instead of just thinking, what's the extra strategy? Where do I want to get to? Like, if I want to be able to go on 2 holidays a year, I want to, just chill out to do these are things that I want. And if I was a bit frugal, save till I'm 35, invested, I could basically do all that and not have to work again. Instead, they just spend. Then they get to the age of 65, 70, like 74. Then they moan that their pension has failed and doesn't support them the way they want. It's like, yeah, because you was thinking too much with the missionary mindset instead of the Samoan. So yeah, this was a variation of another story, which was what the favorite of the king of Epirus said to his master may be applied to all men in the ordinary situations of human life. When the king had recounted to him in their proper order all the conquests which he proposed to make and had come to the last of them, and what does your majesty propose to do then? And said the favourite, I propose then, said the king, to enjoy myself with my friend and endeavour to be good company over a bottle. What hinders your majesty from doing so now? Replied the favourite. Like, if you're gonna just chill, and like Majesty is assuming that he's if you talk calling somebody Your Majesty, but he's obviously wealthy, he has power, he has influence, he can access stuff like that, food, drink, you know, hosting a party, whatever. And he's like, I'm going to relax and just enjoy my life with my friends after all these conquests. And the favorite is like, or he doesn't say it, but what he's getting at is, you can do that now. If the end goal is to be able to do those things and you can already do them, why go through that journey? It's like you wouldn't be at a location. Let's say if you're at a shop, you wouldn't be at that shop and then decide, you know what? I want to be at this shop, so I'll go out, I'll walk a mile back, and I'm literally back in the same place. Like, you'd see that as silly. Yet most people live their lives to some extent. Obviously, it's not as clear cut as this. Like I said, most people can't just chill on the beach all day. They need to work, get some money, or most people aren't rich enough to be like the Majesty, where they can just get what they want right now. But they will. Most people have the ability to get to where they actually want to be if they actually spoke about what they want a lot quicker than what they're actually doing. So let me put this book away. Okay, so just put that book away. So yeah, instead of just blindly going where to instead of being sheep, basically, people don't think and decide, you know what, I think we should do this, or I should implement these procedures so that way I can get to this position and I can achieve this in life. I can obtain these things. Let me read out a quote, and it's one of my own quotes, one of my own sayings. I have a Google Doc list, so I call it my sayings book, my quotes book, but it's just a sheet that's got all my personal quotes on there. I've got like hundreds and hundreds that are put in there. I'll read a few of them out, but there's a particular one I want to read out. Let me search for it. Okay. Life is like a road. There is no doubt in my mind you will get somewhere. The question is it somewhere you want to be? If you want to go north and you constantly travel along the roads that take you south, for sure you will get somewhere, but not where you will be happy. Life's that simple. Find the right road, and when you realize you are on the wrong one, just course correct. There is no shame in saying I was on the wrong road. Most people would rather go to the wrong place, do the wrong things, and make it out as if that was their plan all along instead of embracing the embarrassment. So that's one of my quotes. And that applies to most people. They don't want to course correct. They don't want to think, you know what, this isn't going to get me where I'm going. Like, I've spoken to people and they want to retire. They want to do these things no matter what age they are. They could be in the 20s. I've spoken to people that are in the 50s and 60s about it. And they don't want to say, they've done wrong all their life or they've just done the wrong things and they need to course correct, they always have an excuse, like, oh, I'm too old now, or oh, nobody taught me this, or I just want to enjoy myself on the weekend, or whatever it is. But then they'll equally moan when they don't have these things. So let me read you a few other random quotes from my sayings book. I think could be a nice thing to share. Would you rather drive to heaven in a Civic or to hell in a Lamborghini? That's one that I really like. I'm gonna duplicate that and create like a slightly variation, like a slight variation. So, would you rather drive to heaven in a Civic or to hell in a Lamborghini, or to hell in a Lamborghini that you need to pay for when you get there with your blood, sweat, and tears? So here's some more quotes. The enemy of progress is the excuses we tell ourselves. Use the wisdom of age instead of the inexperience of use. Make your money in business, be that your own or serving a master, and store it in property. So this is a saying that I have in my head. And, make your money in business and store it in property. And most people would take that as like, I don't have a business. It doesn't matter. If you work for somebody, you're working for a business, an organization, wherever it is, you're making it in business. It could be your own business, could be working for somebody else in a conventional 9 to 5 office job, being a teacher, whatever it is, doctor, whatever. High salary, low salary, highly respected, lowly respected, good career progression, no career progression, whatever it is. It could be a mixture of the two. Like I've done a mixture of the two as well, do some other stuff at the side, and then store it in property. I find one of the things that I have with financial gurus and property gurus that you'll come across online is they'll talk about you gotta not spend your money on luxury item, not do this, and got put it in property. And one thing they always seem to miss out, or they never really talk about, is that you've got to save up first. But they'll equally say, "Oh, saving is stupid and dumb," and in their mind, they make sense. They're saying saving and not doing anything with that money and putting it in the bank is dumb. But you would temporarily have to save, do nothing with it, put it in the bank. But when you get a sizable amount, then you will invest that. You can't. If let's say you're saving £500 a month, £500 a month over 12 months or over a year period, that is £6,000. Let's say you need £20,000 to be able to let's make it a nice round, make it easy for the calculations. So we need £30,000 to invest in property, unless let's say that's the deposit, that's legal fees, and that's surveyor fees. That's just everything, anything that you might need to do in the property. So it's very cheap property. Let's say less than 100 grand, and you've got some sort of 20% mortgage on there. And that can be a bit hard to get on a buy to let, but it's possible. What they don't tell you is, if you're saving on £500 a month, you can't invest in property with £500 a month. You could save for 12 months in a year. That'll get you 6 grand. They could save for 5 years. They'll give you 30 grand. And that 30 grand you could invest. Like, that's the thing I find they always miss out. They always say, saving is for losers and investing is for winners. But what they don't say is, you need to save to be able to invest. They don't make a clear distinction, I find, between saving for investing and saving just for the sake of having a rising bank balance. So I think that's something that a lot of gurus and YouTubers and whatnot out there that they seem to miss out. Okay, so let me read a few more quotes and then I'll wrap up this live stream on my own for today. Okay, most of us go through life malnutrition, not malnutrition of the stomach, but of the mind. Ooh, this is a nice one as well. This is very, very, out there. Nobody will take care of your interests the way you will. Not your mom, not your dad, not your spouse, not your children, not your dog, not the government, no one. Everyone says they will take a bullet for you, run into a burning building to save you, but when they feel that barrel against their bony head, the flames melting their skin off, they will turn against you quicker than milk outside on a hot summer day. Here's another one. You only have to be right once, and the world will forget all your mistakes. Let's try and read another one for you. Worry not about tomorrow, but get to bed tonight, and tomorrow shall unfold itself. More powerful than what is said is what is unsaid. Learning only what you need Learning only what you think you need to gets you only what you think you want. But learning what you don't think you need to know gets you to your truest desires. Planning once leads to failing twice. Planning twice leads to succeeding thrice. Ooh, bit of rhyme there. Oh, yeah, here's another one. What's funny about the coronavirus is how people are usually putting down communism and saying capitalism is the best thing, but now they want intervention, money, protection, lockdown, etc. Under capitalism, if you can't survive, you die. They want the illusion of freedom, but for it to be handed on a platter to them. When the world collapses, all the lies begin to unravel. They completely unravel when the world is whole again. The grass is never greener, just relatively different. Thank you costs nothing, but gets you everything. Here's another one. Be agreeable, not persuadable. Kids are like dogs, they need to be trained. But some people don't want to hear it like that. Never be sorry, say it, but never mean it. And that's like in the world of business. Parents are like gods. They will welcome and receive praise when the child does well, but will find an excuse to dismiss the blame if a child fails in any capacity. You know, like the amount of times like I've had like somebody will say to my dad, like about me, they'll say, "Oh, you know, you've done such an excellent job, you know, raising him." Blah, blah, blah. They'll compliment me, but say they've done an amazing job. But most of the time they won't say, if let's say one of his kids or anybody's kid did something bad, they won't say anything to them. And even if they did, you know, the parent won't be like, you know what, you know, I didn't do bad. I didn't raise him that well. I don't know how I could have done better, but I didn't. They won't say that. Yep, let's wrap up for today. So this has been episode 5 of the Just Average People podcast. And this was your host, Farhan Hussain, your guest also, me, Farhan Hussain. And let's, like I said, for next week's podcast, I'll be getting my business partner, Aritosh Gurung, in. And yeah, that'll be episode 6. I'll be doing more on my own as well. So it'd be a great way to fill it in between me getting guests. Plus, on top of that, it'll be a great thing for me to keep myself accountable, to discuss what I've been doing, and you know, just go on these rants, talk about business, talk about stuff, talk about what I've learned that help reinforce my ideas, and just share my opinions as well. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great weekend, great day, and great life in general, and I'll see you all in the next podcast.